Hello, and welcome to Remembering Together, the LMJ's podcast. I'm your host, Matt Harold. Each month, we explore the many ways Alzheimer's and other forms of dementia touch our lives, from personal stories of families affected by this disease to the ongoing efforts to find a cure. Join us as we raise awareness, share support, and learn together about the impact of Alzheimer's on nearly 7 million people worldwide. Let's remember together and work toward a future where no one faces this disease alone. Welcome back to Remembering Together, an LMJ's Lost Souls podcast. I'm your host, Matt Harold. We are at episode number 2, so I've made it through the first, and we're going to give it a go with number 2 here. And I have the opportunity to talk, but I'm going to try to talk a little bit less as the host. I'm going to let our guest tell us all about himself and about what he does. We have a very, very special guest today, a 3-time Executive of the Year of the Frontier League, the 2023 John Dietrich Executive of the Year, an amazing human being, someone I've known personally for quite a few years. I have Michael Larson, the Executive Vice President and General Manager of the Schaumburg Boomers, with me here today. Michael, thank you for being with us.
Hey, thanks for having me and for, fluffing me up with that introduction there.
I tried my best to make it about you and not about me, and it was very difficult. But when you have the credentials that you have that I stole off your LinkedIn and stole off your bio, makes it a little bit easier. So since I previewed the audience and the crowd here, tell me a little bit about yourself. Tell me a little bit about you.
Well, I think probably the biggest accomplishment I have is that I am number 2 on your podcast, which is pretty exciting. I can now make a lot of references to Austin Powers for, as long as I can keep that in mind. For myself, I just finished my 20th season in professional baseball. I started in 2005 with the Alexandria Beatles as a unpaid intern way back in the day. And now I've, have 6 or 7 seasons, I'm losing count, under my belt with the Schaumburg Boomers here in beautiful Chicagoland. And I'm looking forward to getting ready for next year and processing into the off season and starting to get going.
I'm sorry. So where was the unpaid internship? The Beatles? Is that
Alexandria Beatles in the Northwoods League is Alexandria, Minnesota, which is actually where I was born. Fun fact. And spent a lot of time on the shores of Lake Lahamadou. But that was the very first team I worked for. I was working as a manager of a hotel up in Grand Forks, North Dakota. I just started going back to school after taking 5 years off. I didn't really know what I was going to do with my life. One of my good buddies said, "Hey, you like baseball. Why don't you go do that?" So I left a full-time job, getting paid a solid salary, to go be an unpaid intern in the Northwoods League. I was there for 2 summers while I finished up school. It was 2007 hit. I applied probably 200, 300 places, got 1 job offer in Idaho Falls, Idaho, and moved all the way out to Idaho Falls for very little money, but it was a great time, learned a lot. And that was probably the last time I applied for a job, because from there, I kind of got recruited to come back to the Fargo-Moorhead area where I grew up and where I went to college, and was with the Fargo-Moorhead Redhawks for 10 years before, being reached out to come here to this area.
So from the Beatles to Idaho, I mean, when it's unpaid to very little pay, it's still a massive pay increase.
It's better now.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it did take like 6 or 7 years of working in baseball before I passed what I walked away from.
And that's, I think that's the key to many people. It's you got to start somewhere, especially in the sports world. You're not gonna, everyone looks at the glory that's there from the end result, but there's a lot of work that it takes to get to where you want to be. So that's kudos to you.
That night, it's been 20 years since I said I don't want to go to work today. Like means a lot more than any financial reward or anything.
Awesome.
Not to say it's not, fine now, but I think when you're talking about anybody, thinking about their professional career, what they want to spend their time doing, if you think about the portion of your life that you spend at work, and if you hate what you're doing, why are you there? I mean, that's time in your life you're never going to get back. So I think that's key, is finding something you actually enjoy doing and going from there.
I think it's funny you say that. I talk with my own employees. You spend more time with your coworkers other than sleeping than you do with your own family. If you break it down, sleeping 8 hours a day or 7 hours a day, and then you break it down with working 8 hours, even with weekends, you better like what you do. And that's a great sign. So kind of, you like what you do. So tell us a little bit about the Schaumburg Boomers and the Boomers as a whole.
Well, with the Boomers, I mean, we're a minor league baseball team for anyone who's not familiar with it. We're in the Schaumburg area, right here in the suburbs of Chicago. We're part of the Frontier League, which is the largest MLB partner league, which is MLB partner league is a minor league level that is not associated with any specific team. So any major league team can grab our players. And we go from here all the way to New York, Quebec, Ottawa, down into St. Louis, Pittsburgh. It's an extremely large league, 16 teams with a very large footprint in pretty much every major market you can think of from here to New York. So it's a very strong league, and it's great, talented baseball players. I think if you look at the level of baseball, it's probably closest to AA or high A, somewhere in that level. But as we've got guys in our league that either were just in the major leagues within the last year, or two guys who went undrafted and are going to get signed. So a lot of AA, AAA talent in there. And yeah, I mean, that's what our organization is in terms of the baseball situation. In terms of community partnerships, we'll get into that a little bit, but we are very strong within our region, strong within our community. We've led the league in attendance for the last 6, 7 straight years, 9 straight years, something like that. Every year that I've been here, we've had a strong growth in attendance in the last 7 years. And for the last 4 seasons straight, we have set an attendance record every season for overall attendance.
I mean, what was it over the course of, it was like 370 days, was it, that you guys broke your single game attendance record? Was it 4 times?
Oh, for single game attendance, that was interesting. 2023, we set the single game attendance record on July 3rd.
Okay.
Reset it on July 4th. Then on like August 3rd or 4th, somewhere early August, we finished halfway in between. So the top 3 attendances were all that year in 2023. Then we reset it with an even larger number in mid-August of 2023. So then we go into this year. July 4th, we set a whole new record. We beat all of those games. That lasted until July 12th, where, Star Wars Night with the drone show and all that stuff took over the new top billing. So it's been great to watch that go and to see new records and challenge ourselves on what we can hold. One of the keys to setting single game attendance records isn't necessarily selling as many tickets as are available. It's selling as many tickets as you can handle. Whether, you have to be able to have the infrastructure for food and beverage, infrastructure for bathrooms, the infrastructure for being able to provide a quality experience. Some of the reasons why we've continued to be able to get higher and higher attendances is because we have increased facilities or increased food and beverage operations, increased ability to take care of the people that are there. It's not just, I know some teams will just sell tickets until people stop by.
Right.
We will turn people away knowing full well that if we bring any more people into the ballpark, it's going to be horrible for everybody involved.
It's a betterment of the fan experience, the employee experience, all that. You got to make it all hands on deck. And
every now and then there's a game, and a couple of those attendance ones sneaks up on you, where like you just walk up 2,500 people at the last minute. You're like, what do we do? And those are, if you think back and you're like, man, I went in the concessions lines, took me 3 innings. Those are the ones that caught us off guard. Those are the ones where we didn't expect 2,500 people from 5 o'clock on to just show up. And you can start turning people away a little bit, but by the time they sat in traffic for 45 minutes just to get in,
right,
you kind of don't want to be like, hey,
right,
you got to go. But that's kind of part of it is being able to build over time and continue to increase the experience for fans. I think one of the the big joys I've had is the ability to build both literally and figuratively with the organization, with capital improvements and the changes of the ballpark, but also building up what we can do operationally with everybody that's coming in. Every year we try some new things. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. We had some great successes from this recent year that we can't wait to repeat next year. We had some things that we tried this year that didn't pan out, and
that is business. Yes.
Yeah, you just got to keep going.
So obviously there's two, kind of talk about the product on the field and then the people that are there from an attendance standpoint and the people there from your team. So obviously you want to put a quality product on the field for the fan experience, but then what you guys are doing from, giving back in the community side of it, you want to hit on that when it comes to charities and philanthropy. What is it that, what's the alignment there for the Boomers, for you personally? And I know there's a few questions in there, but love to hear about that.
I mean, speaking a little bit more philosophically on the role of a minor league baseball team or a sports team or whatever that sits within a community, I find that it's more accurate to judge on what you give back to the community than what you're taking from it. And it's really important to utilize the fact that you are a unique business. Very few businesses have the name of the city that you're in. As soon as we say Schaumburg Boomers, we're representing the village of Schaumburg. We're not owned by the village of Schaumburg. We're not, part of that affiliate. They own the stadium, but they don't own us. But we have to keep in mind that whatever we do is also reflecting on the village of Schaumburg. We have, duty and obligation there that a lot of other companies wouldn't necessarily have. We have a bigger brand and a bigger presence than probably our business model provides, right? For 8 or 9 months, I'm tiny business, very little revenue, very little expense. Then there's 3 or 4 months where it's big, but our name is much bigger than necessarily our business. As a sports team, as something that's getting in the media, as something that's being talked about, you have, kids wearing your t-shirts, and you have, a presence that is much bigger and greater than a lot of other businesses might have in a community. Because you have that as a minor league team, you also need to know how to use it and how to know that you're being reflective in the community, right? So trying to get back to the nonprofits.
No, I love where you're going with this, because I think especially for people who are listening in, very different perspective than people probably think of.
Yeah.
I go to see a baseball game. There is so much more that you're trying to deliver on a promise here and do very differently than people realize. And this goes at the major league level too. You have an obligation to do something when the name is in there, like you're saying. So you're representing, when it comes to the village, it's Schaumburg as a whole, not just the team that plays on the field at Wintrust Field. That's huge. So yeah, I love where you're going.
I mean, like I said, the league earlier with MLB Partner League, the league goes all these giant major markets. So we're putting the name of Schaumburg next to New York, Quebec, Ottawa, like major metropolitan areas, right? We're not putting suburbs of Chicago. We're not putting Windy City, no offense to Windy City Bulls. I didn't mean to take a shot there. I meant like we're putting that name in line with those other major cities, which comes with some benefit, when it comes to economic development and things like that for the village. But it's really about remembering that we're doing that and that we need to reflect that city as best we can, right? So we have to present as much as we can, reflecting positively, from the experience, from what we're doing in the community, what we're giving back, where we're at. But we also have the obligation coming. I'm going down 2 different avenues here. Sorry. So you have the expectation of trying to keep up, with that being associated with the city or village or whatever you're in. But then you also have that duty that comes with the bigger brand, right? The bigger exposure. What can you do with that? Sometimes as a small business, you can't donate to everything, right? You get hit up for various events and everything nonstop, and you got to pick and choose what you can do. And, like with your insurance company, you have to pick and choose what you can support, what you can do. For us, we can do a little bit more because we have that ability to. Right. Now, we can't give a special night to every single charity. We can't give a suite to every single charity. We can't, so sometimes we maybe disappoint people a little bit when they're like, hey, why did I only get 8 tickets or whatever, and a hat. But we can do that. We can support almost every donation request that we get, which is 30 to 40 a week sometimes. We can support because we have that ability with the bigger brand. It's not always going to be the biggest thing out there.
You can do something
but
for
we
them.
can do something, right?
Huge.
And that's part of what you have to do to keep up that presence, and it's not because you want your name in the paper for it, or you necessarily even want your logo on the graphics of, hey, this was supported by them. It's just part of being a good community partner. It's just part of being nice to people. You have the ability to do it, you should do it. And that's kind of part of the perspective there on being a minor league team in your community.
Is that something that comes from the top down, that idea, or is that something that is that something that's seen from what across the entire Frontier League? Is this I'm not trying to. I like to make the Boomers special, so if you're going to tell me that it's exponentially different, or is it similar throughout? I mean, they're talking to bigger cities than that, than Schaumburg, for example. But how does that compare?
I think every team kind of manages that a little bit differently.
Okay.
I'm kind of giving you my perspective and philosophy. I know that you mentioned from top down, our ownership is very giving, very wanting to be a part of as much in the community as they can. Mr. Salvi, Lindy Salvi are both on do a lot of nonprofit work and are out there everywhere, and like to see us doing it as well. So that's something that you could attribute some top down, and it's also something I come in from my own perspective. I can't really speak to the other teams in the league. I'm sure a lot of them do a lot of things, but I've seen kind of different approaches from different organizations, and that's more probably us.
Right. Yeah. So when you talk about these, what charity, what do you guys look for, or what do you personally look for? What do the Boomers look for when you want to try to see, especially kind of talk about these nights that you're referring to, if you want to kind of hit on what those nights are, and then how does that work with what you guys do there?
We don't typically have to do as much of the looking. More people are coming to us, totally. Right? But when we're looking to set up those partnerships, it's really just, does it fit what we're trying to do? Does the expectations line up with what we're trying to do? And does it make sense? Because like I said, we'll do something for almost everyone, right? So does it make sense to do something more as a game and an event like we do with Lost Souls, right? Or does it make more sense just to do tickets for that one-off charity auction thing that they've got going on, right there? So it's just kind of lining up our resources with what the event is. I think when you're starting to kind of break down one versus another, it's not typically that it's like anything personal with one business or one nonprofit versus another. It's more about opportunity and just kind of making those relationships and helping out those that we know are going to want to be supported in that way. I think though that there's also a certain level of authenticity you look for, making sure that the people that are wanting to be a part of that nonprofit or wanting to support it are really caring a lot about the cause and knowing that it's going very strongly to the cause. I know there's, with Lost Souls, that's kind of carrying on your guys' life. You're really involved in that heavily. Our pediatric cancer night with Gold Glove Charities, it's all about the kids that they're struggling with cancer and coming out for the game and giving them the best experience we can. That one can be a little tough.
I'm hearing a two-way street is kind of how it, you guys want to see that organization is caring about the community, wants the Boomers to also benefit from that. It's not just about them, and you guys are in the same way. It's not just about the Boomers. It's about what you can do for that charity. So you mentioned a couple. Obviously, you're here. Appreciate the LMJ's plug. Pediatric Cancer Night. Want to end on a couple other nights you guys have throughout the year from a charitable standpoint that I know.
There's Breast Cancer Night, which is a classic one. We kind of start thinking about history in my family and whatnot. Lost one grandmother to breast cancer, so it kind of always comes to mind with that. I know that game itself has also kind of produced some things. I don't know if listeners know too much about Roxy Parik's story, but she can give you an amazing story about all that and screening and the fight that goes on in that realm. My other grandmother struggled with dementia for quite some time. It's kind of a memory loss thing that ties into the Alzheimer's events. So some of these end up being pretty personal. As a father with 3 kids who have been, we've been fortunate that they've all been healthy. But seeing the kids that are fighting cancer and their families and what they go through, a lot of these become very personal, very quick, very relatable, very quick. We've been able to do some other ones though. This year's Star Wars night, we were able to work with Organ Donor Network, with being the benefactor of the Jersey auction for Donate Life. We were able to work a lot with the American Cancer Society on some other events. Kiwanis, Knights of Columbus community groups that
Awesome.
Are being a little bit more localized in their activities. We had a whole event all summer with strikeouts for charity, which went to the Schaumburg Township Food Pantry.
Awesome.
Raising money, working with Raising Cane's on that one, and trying to be kind of giving back directly to the community as well as much as we can with a lot of these events, keeping it in benefiting everyone around us as much as we can.
And interesting. And when you mentioned the Star Wars night, I think a lot of people, oh, that's a really cool game, and it is. But the fact that you're doubling down on it's not just the cool game that has the drone show with it. It's what are we doing with that, and the fact you're able to do a give back in turn with a really fun experience, that in a fun game and a different atmosphere, but still able to do that. That's really, really cool. I know you hit on it a little bit. If you want to talk about your personal experience when it comes to dementia and how it ties in with LMJs and that from your personal story.
It's not nearly as personalized as a lot of other folks who are involved. But my uncle, my grandmother, a lot of people on my dad's side of the family have struggled. It's been kind of hereditary through with dementia, and knowing that presence is kind of personalized, and a little bit of waiting to wondering what's going to happen to you as you get a little older, or myself. I mean, not you personally, didn't mean to throw shots at you. No, but wondering as it is prominent in my family, what's going, to be the future on my side. That's kind of where it's easy to kind of personalize some of these things going on.
100%. No.
Plus, more lighthearted. I'm a Vikings fan. I'm from Minnesota, so the purple is just naturally.
I was going to lead with that, but I didn't think that was the right way to lead. I was going to let you tell that part of the story.
Prince is my people.
Yes, correct. We appreciate that Michael has Purple Rain on the playlist for the fireworks at the LMJ's night at the Boomers game. So thank you there. Appreciate you sharing the personal experience. Never a fun thing to bring up, but it's real there. And with all the events that you're talking about, how that has, obviously, knock on wood, you have no connection in your personal family. And when you say pediatric cancer, it's a terrible thing. And you're saying we're lucky. Similar way to you, I look at it all the time when I see a kid struggling. lucky right now and blessed, that doesn't mean that you don't want to give to something that affects others. So huge there. Obviously, you're doing a lot when it comes to philanthropy, charity work. If you wouldn't mind sharing with the audience any advice, people who want to get more involved when it comes to giving back. Obviously, I know why you do it, but just anything you wouldn't mind sharing for somebody who maybe says, I'm not that philanthropic, or I wish I was more. Well, what's your advice there?
I don't think it matters whether it's being philanthropic, going down a new career path, not telling people to quit their jobs, wanting to make a change in your life. It all comes down to, what Nike said, just do it, get up and go. I've seen a lot of things in my life that became motivating points of, okay, I got to do this now. Like it's make or break time. And when you get in that point and you just get up and start doing, it's amazing what starts to happen. There was, we had an assistant coach this year's kind of main focus was mental health and that kind of thing. And, shout out to Rick Cordy, who put up posters and stuff throughout the clubhouse for the team. And I'm trying to remember the quote exactly. But he said, 1 month from now, you'll either have progress or you'll think about what you should have been doing for the last 1 month. Right. And I think I screwed up the quote, but the point is, if you don't start doing things now, you're not going to get anywhere. That's the main thing. If you want to get involved in something, just start doing it. Like, it's not hard. There's people around you everywhere that want volunteers for events. If you're able to give money, great. If you're able to give time, great. Like, you can do that. There's always opportunities. Just go for it.
There's no better day than yesterday to get involved. And since you didn't do it yesterday, today's a good opportunity is kind of what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
Have to do this because you're here. For those of you who don't know what the Boomers do, what Michael does, what Michael and his team do, is truly amazing because of the impact that they want to have on the community. They've been nominated for many awards and won many awards. And obviously awards are great, but even if they hadn't won any award, I would tell you from a personal standpoint, what they are doing in the community is truly amazing. And it's amazing because they don't have to do this. They want to do this. And that shows even greater when it's just a want instead of a need. You do a lot more because it's out of the goodness of their hearts and the goodness of just wanting to be a part of the community. So I have to say, from a shameless plug, you've been amazing to us in our nonprofit, and I know you're amazing to many other nonprofits. So if you're looking for something to support, whether it's sponsorship, whether it's going to a game, bringing your family out, bringing your coworkers out, having a company event, the Boomers are an amazing place to do it. You're going to get a great experience from a quality baseball team on the field. We're also going to get a quality experience from the organization as a whole with the Boomers. So I just want to throw that in there, but I was not asked to do that. So
I appreciate it.
But absolutely there. And truly, Michael, want to thank you for being here on behalf of myself and LMJ's. We cannot thank you enough for taking time out of your day to be with us, to share what's going on with the Boomers. Obviously, want to let our audience know where can you find out more information about Michael, about the Boomers. So boomersbaseball.com is a great place to get information about the Boomers. M. Larson with an O-N at boomersbaseball.com is where you can find information on Michael. As always, if there's any information about LMJ's that you would like to find out, that would be at lostsoulsandalz.org. Michael, thank you again for being here. Thank you to the Boomers. Thank you for what you do for Schaumburg. Thank you for what you do for the community. And thank you to our audience for being with us here today on Remembering Together an LMJ's Lost Souls podcast.